Hi, so welcome to the podcast again today. I hope you're enjoying listening to all of the previous episodes. They're all available up on Apple, Amazon, through my website and through YouTube as well. So whatever your channel of choice is, you can head over there and listen to all of the back catalogue. But today is really exciting because I'm speaking to another creative entrepreneur, well, two lovely ladies I'm going to introduce you to in a little minute. And this is going to be part of a series that we're continuing to do, which is to interview other creative entrepreneurs at various different stages of their business, in all very different kind of industries and niches. So it's all very exciting, and I'm going to welcome them now. So I'm going to introduce you to Shan and Millie. So Shan and Millie, say hi and do introduce yourselves, who you are, what your business is, and what it's all about and what you sell.
Hello, my name's Shan and I am one half of Homemade by Mills and Mum.
Hi, I'm Millie and I'm the other half.
So Millie is my daughter. We're a mum and daughter team. Millie's currently 11, but we started when she was just 9. It was something that was born from both of our love of doing block printing as a hobby. And Millie also really enjoys fidget toys, so we started by doing some fidget toys, but also expanded that with including our hobby, which is all our block printing, and we also do workshops as well.
Fantastic. So I think you're probably going to be the youngest interviewee that I've ever had on the podcast, Millie, so welcome. It's so impressive, like starting your own business at that young age. It's really fantastic. I see that you're going to be a fabulously successful entrepreneur when you get older. Well, you already are, but I think the sky's the limit, isn't it? So it's really exciting to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and talk to me. So tell me a little bit how you kind of came to setting up your own business. What made you want to take the leap from doing it as a hobby that you enjoyed into actually earning money from it?
So I've always wanted to have my own business because I quite like it, but we really wanted to share our passion with the world, well, the community at the moment, but we've always wanted
the world is out there waiting for you, Millie, I'm sure.
We've always wanted to share our passion, and we decided to start selling our block printed things. So we do like lampshades and cushions and stuff like that.
Amazing. And did you take any classes to learn how to do this, or did you kind of teach yourself? How did you get to be so amazing at it? Because I've seen some of your work and it's beautiful. So how did you get so good at doing it?
So it started as I got a voucher from Santa at Christmas to go to a workshop to do some block printing, and we kind of just grew our love from there, did more, and then we decided we wanted to do something with it and started to sell it.
We tested the water at a local stall, and sort of just to see whether other people liked it as much as we did, and that was really successful. We almost sold out at our first event, and so just sort of were testing the water. Fantastic company who got us started was the Arty Crafty Place. They're based in Oxfordshire. We get a lot of our supplies from there, which has really helped.
Oh, fantastic. Are you based around there as well, or where do you operate?
So we're based in Wiltshire, so it's not a million miles away. But yeah, we first met them at another craft fair.
So tell me about the craft fairs that you do. Have you got some coming up for the festive season as well? I guess it's kind of that time, isn't it, to start thinking about all of the markets and craft fairs and all that kind of thing?
Yes, definitely. It's our busiest quarter, really, as a lot of people obviously selling. We do lots of Christmas markets, craft fairs, local and stretching slightly further afield, and we've got some workshops booked in as well to do, which is always great fun as well.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I'll make sure that I get the details of you, and we will put those in the show notes as well, so people can go and check you out. And if they're local to you, then maybe they want to go and try and find your beautiful pieces at some of the markets locally. So that would be really great. So I'll make sure I get that into the show notes later on. So when you first started doing all of the markets and the craft fairs, did you find it easy to kind of get started, or was it a bit of trial and error? What was easy and what was hard about doing those markets?
I guess just being brave and the exposure and putting yourself out there was a big hurdle to get over. And I feel I've been really lucky doing it with Millie, because Millie's just been, come on mum, let's go for it.
Yeah.
It's just been fantastic. I've hoped that I could be a role model for her, so I thought, well, if she's able to do it, then it's something we can do. We must try. So I think that getting over the fear of failure, I don't really want to do something that's going to fail, but it's still proving really popular. We're still really enjoying it. And I think it's having those perseverance as well, and to keep going and enjoy it. We enjoy it, which is really what helps.
Yeah,
I think it's when it's really nice that you've got a partnership, because it kind of, you can keep each other going, can't you? And if one person's feeling a little bit scared or down about something, the other person's often the one that kind of goes, no, it will be fine, we'll kind of keep going, isn't it? And I think it's nice when you've got each other, isn't it? It's one of those things where if you're going it alone, there's always that those fears and those kind of self-doubts and lack of confidence can really kind of creep in. But I think because you've got each other, obviously you've got that support, which is really fantastic, isn't it? And you can keep each other going. And yes, so that's, I think that's a really lovely part of your relationship as well. But having a business where you can bounce ideas off each other and things like that, I think it's something that those of us that work alone often really miss. So I think that's a really fantastic thing to have between you. So with the craft fairs and everything, I know that it's one of those things. How did you kind of choose which ones to do? Were they sort of ones that you'd been to in the past yourselves, or did you do a bit of research? Like, how did you decide which ones you thought might be right for you?
I think again it's a little bit trial and error. I sort of thought, well, where would I go if I wanted to buy some nice homemade gifts for people? Where has some really good footfall? Where has good access? We tried a new place the other week, which was a tiny space for us compared to what we're used to, but it had such a wonderful vibe, and the event organizer had really good social media advertising and marketing, so it really pulled us in. We felt very supported by that event, so it was worth reducing our selling space for the other advantages. So I think it's been open-minded as well to things like that. We love a lot of space, but it don't let that put you off sometimes, I think, as well.
I think with these kind of things, footfall is one of the most important things, because it can be the most aesthetically beautiful space, it can have loads of fantastic sellers, but if you're not getting the customers through the door, it kind of doesn't mean anything, does it? And it's often choosing the right the right places that are going to be good for your particular business, because there's some fantastically different fairs and craft markets and things out there, so it's about choosing the right ones for you, isn't it, as a business, but also making sure that they're doing their bit to promote it as well in the lead up. And I think it's some really good advice there for people that maybe haven't tried doing markets or fairs yet, is to not just hand over your money, but to ask them how much promotion are they doing, where is the promotion going on? Is it social media? Is there a newsletter list? Is there advertising in print with, especially with the local markets? Does it go in some of the local press? Does it go in some of the local magazines? All of that kind of thing. So I think it's a really good point that's going to come up in our chat just now, that really do your research when you're picking these avenues to choose for your markets, because you have to spend a lot of time creating all of your things to sell, and that's not an insignificant amount of time to spend, is it, kind of creating all of those things. So you need to be really confident that you're going to be able to sell at least a good proportion of what you've made for that fair so that you can recoup all of your money. And I know that a lot of them, they vary in price enormously as well, don't they, the craft fairs? So, you know, either you sort of need to kind of think, you know, well, I've got this budget for doing this amount of fairs this year. Am I going to kind of go all out on the more expensive ones and maybe do fewer, or am I going to do a bit of a hybrid of the more expensive ones and then maybe the cheaper, smaller ones? And like you say, you do a bit of trial and error, don't you? And you see which ones give you the best return, and also the ones that you enjoy most. Because like when I was working in the wedding industry, I used to do, initially in the early days, I used to do a lot of the wedding fairs, and you know, it was one of those things where it was a networking opportunity as well. So it wasn't just how much you managed to sell or how many bookings that you made on the day. It was just an opportunity to get to know other people in the industry and like team up and do some amazing, often you can do some really great sort of partnership things where you can create things together as well. So it's not all about the sales on the day, it's often about that networking opportunity and getting your business known, isn't it, as well?
Absolutely, yes. Networking is key. Definitely something I've learnt over the last year.
Yeah, and I think it's especially so at the moment with social media being harder to stand out on. You know, I think there's going to be a real return to that in-person connection, and I don't think that that's necessarily all bad, actually. You know, I think especially post-COVID, we all kind of miss that personal connection with people. So I feel like it's definitely something that is going to grow, not decline. I think there was a big decline for a lot of years, but I feel like personally I've started to see a lot more of that kind of thing going on. There's a lot more networking events happening again. There's a lot more of these you know, kind of collaborative efforts where, you know, communities are coming together to put on their own craft fairs and things like that. So I think I'm going to be really interested to see how that market changes in the next few months, next year or two, especially with all of the pressures that we're all experiencing financially. Yes. I think, again, that personal connection where we're not all sort of sitting at home worrying, but we're going to maybe get out a little bit more and seek that human comfort and that human reassurance. And, you know, I definitely think there's a big place for homemade items or from smaller businesses, because I think we're all a little bit tired of constantly giving our money to multimillionaires, and you know, it would be nice to see a bit of redistribution amongst local communities and things like that. So I think, yeah, for me, I'm really excited to see how the craft fairs and the smaller markets kind of grow in the next year or so, because I really do think that it is an area for growth. So that said, you know, you've obviously got a website and social media, and you know, do you sell a lot through your website, or is it mostly kind of personalized orders, sort of direct ordering that tends to be your sort of sales purpose?
So most of our sales are generated locally, and they'll be either at an event that we've been to or just after. So not many sort of cold calls as such. We've had one or two, but that's something that we're going to look at, you know, possibly for next year to see how we can expand that side of things. So well,
it's exciting that you've got areas for growth, isn't it? Like maybe having an online shop and things like that in the future and stuff like that. So I think the more, especially at the moment, the more avenues that we can kind of cover, and the more bases that we can cover to kind of get out there and make sales, the better it's going to be, and the easier it is going to be for us all to kind of ride those waves of these financial sort of ups and downs that we're experiencing right now. What about you, Millie? Do you talk to your friends about it, and like your age group, your peers, and are they really in awe of you having a business at your age?
Certainly on the first store, like the very, very first one we did lots. I told loads of my friends, and in the more local ones, I always tell what we're doing. And because it's my birthday coming up, I'm going to do a bit more block printing and get more blocks
with your friends,
with my friends.
Brilliant.
At my school, my teachers know about it, and some of my teachers have brought stuff as well. So, and sometimes we often, good idea for Christmas presents, and that's always all of my Christmas presents for all my friends and everything. So
isn't that
certainly,
fantastic though, that you can make, you can make things yourself for your friends and family and things. I think it's something that I really love, and I think it's so much more meaningful than just buying something off Amazon, isn't it? And you get more enjoyment out of it as well, don't you, when you've made something for somebody. I think there's definitely that kind of that your heart and soul goes into it, doesn't it?
And also, I think what's really interesting, or what sort of amazed me with having Millie as part of the team, again, we were at another stall and we were quite quiet compared to some other people. And Millie had sat back and was watching what they were doing. She says, "Mum, it's because they're talking more to the customers." And so she actually, which I thought was really brave, just got up and started chatting to them and telling them how we'd done it. And that actually made quite a difference then to people coming to the stalls. It fed through to whether people were buying things because they were more interested in the backstory as well, which Millie then generated, which I was so impressed by.
That is really impressive to have that much confidence at your age. I mean, I don't think I think I was a fully fledged adult before I had the confidence to go and sort of speak to lots of strangers, and especially when you're kind of trying to sell a product as well. So I think you should be really proud of yourself that you've got that level of confidence already, and that's because it's one of the biggest things that you need in business, really. So you've got it already, so you're like set.
Thank you.
So what are some of the biggest hurdles then you found? We talked about, I always try to focus on the positives, but I think it's helpful for other businesses when they're listening to this podcast to know that we've all got struggles, we've all had hurdles, we've all found things difficult. What have you found some of the most difficult things to kind of address as you've been starting and carrying on with your business?
I think for me, still keeping a balance with work and family life. It has started as a hobby, but now it's getting busier, especially in this period, and it's just sort of like keeping that balance. As much as you want to, really, you're in charge of that, and I think also having the confidence to say, I am actually working. I can't actually do that because I am working, although lots of people see it as a hobby and you're doing it at home as a bit of a sideline, but it's giving yourself that credibility to have that strength to say to people, no, sorry, I can't do that because I do need to get these orders out. I think those are some of the hurdles. And I think also it's being able to have, which I know you've mentioned many times yourself in your advice, is you do have to have lots of different hats when you've got your own business, and it's being able to share your time amongst those as well can cause challenges at times, let's say.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think carving out time for your business and equally time for family time and friends and things is really, really important. And I think when you work for yourself, it's really, really easy to be kind of consumed by it because, you don't have, an assistant to pass things off on to when you get busy. You don't have somebody that's going to manage all the sales. You don't have somebody that's going to go to the post office for you and or package everything up for you. So, no one else is going to do this. I'm going to have to do it. Yeah. And it's, I think, like you say, I bang on that about it quite a lot, but having a schedule that you try and stick to as much as possible so that you don't impact on your your family time, especially, like, it's something that I had to really learn the hard way, that I did try and mark out that time that was work time and this is family time, but also just genuinely accepting that whilst you can do anything, you can't do everything. And I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it's something that I kind of have to say to myself every week, really. It's like, I could do that. It's like, yes, you could do that, Kate, but do you actually really need to? Like, or is it just, that you're because I think we all get passionate about what we want to do as well. And when you're excited about something, it's natural to kind of pour all of your time and energy into it, isn't it? But you can only really sustain that really, really high level of energy into something for short periods of time. So it's about recognizing in yourself when you need to slow down and when you need to kind of start to try and create a bit more of an even week for yourself so that you're not having these peaks and troughs of crazy activity followed by crash and burn, and so yeah, so I think, but it is definitely one of the trickier things when you're running your own business, and especially when you're working it from home as well, because if you can see it, or you can see it all the time, or especially if you don't have like a dedicated space for it, it's hard to get away from it, isn't it? And it's hard not to go, oh, I'll just do that, or I'll just send that email, or I'll just and it's very hard to be kind of strong with yourself and say, no, right now is the time that I should be going and eating dinner, or sitting down and actually just reading a book, or just sitting down and watching a bit of mindless TV for an hour. I think whatever it is that you do to kind of relax is really important to actually kind of schedule in. So yeah, I completely sympathize with that aspect of it, for sure. I mean, I've only sort of recently had sort of this bit that I can kind of, my studio, that I can shut off from the main bit of the house, whereas before I was sort of in the spare bedroom or on the kitchen table, and it is much harder to maintain those boundaries if you don't have dedicated space. And not everybody can have dedicated space. I certainly didn't for years and years. But it's, if you don't have that dedicated space, then it's even more important to try and be really strong with yourself, even if it's something as simple as throwing a dust sheet over your work so you don't see it. Just some little tricks to kind of make sure that your mind is on the things that it should be on, whether that's family or work. So I completely sympathize with that aspect of it, for sure. What have been some of the most helpful things that you kind of learn early on, that you were like, oh, thank goodness I kind of realized that early on, or is that could have been a bit of an expensive mistake, those kind of things? Anything that you can think of that sort of you found really helpful when you started out?
I'd say one of the things we found really helpful was using personas. So kind of like creating our perfect customer, and kind of like seeing how that seeing how we could apply that to the real world, and what we needed to do to be able to attract those kinds of people.
You're amazing. So many people don't get that for years and years and years. It's incredible. So proud of you. It's amazing.
And I think also we one of the things with that as well, that is going to find the business, don't wait for the business to come and find you. So being quite proactive, and sort of I'm not saying I'm brilliant at this, but maybe looking at your year and knowing that some months are going to be quiet. So actually, what could you do to sort of balance that out? And that's where the workshops came in for us. And so it's that having maybe more than one stream potentially to it. I know that wouldn't necessarily work for everybody, but that was really helpful as well. Buying in bulk, that's something we've recently learnt, that can help. But again, we wouldn't have been able to have done that at the beginning because of finance. But now we've also sort of wanted to try a few different suppliers to see the quality and things like that. But now we've feel settled with that actually we can commit to saying, yeah, actually we can go and buy those in bulk now.
Absolutely. Some really, really important points there. I think, having multiple income streams, even if your business is small, is totally possible for any business. I really do believe that. And I think it's certainly true if you are doing a lot of markets and things like that. There does tend to be those peaks around the festive period. But then how do you maintain that income throughout the rest of the year? So, coming up with doing the workshops is a fantastic way to ensure that you can get that consistency of income coming through. And I think that's what really sets it aside from being a hobby, is when you recognize that you want to try and have that consistency of income month on month, not have that I'm going to do 90% of my takings in 6 weeks, because that's quite hard to manage. It's quite hard to scale from there as well. I mean, I know exactly what you've been saying about being able to buy in bulk. By doing the workshops, I'm assuming that has enabled you to buy in bulk, because you've been getting that extra income that's allowed you to then put it back in to the business, and in terms of buying in bulk. So I think that's it's something that I think every one of us can kind of take away something from that. And I think it's planning for success, essentially, isn't it? It's like you say, it's exactly as you said, it's not waiting for the business to come to you. It's like, right, okay, we're acing it at the markets, what's next? And I think, you know, once you kind of feel like you've nailed one part of the business, you know, always think, right, what can we do now? Like, where's the next step? And I think that's what really sets people apart from, you know, those that are truly really successful, but versus those that are kind of essentially still running a hobby that makes them some money on the side. And there's nothing wrong with that. I am not knocking that at all. But if you do want to grow your business and you do want it to become, you know, either a replacement income for an existing job or, you know, whatever it might be, that's the way to do it, is to really focus on getting that first thing absolutely spot on and you know, completely right, exactly the way you've done it, trial and error, trying out like lots of different suppliers, finding out what works. And then once you have got it working, right, what's the next thing that I can do? Because I'm confident that I've got that nailed. I know what the processes are for that. I know where I get all of my stock from for that. I know where I'm selling that to best effect. I know which markets I'm going to do. So at that point, you're like, right, well, if I've got all of that sorted, what is the next step? So that's really exciting that you kind of branched out into workshops. So how long have you been running the workshops for now? Have you been doing it a little while now?
Yes, I think nearly coming up to a year. So again, not doing too many, probably about every other month. And just, again, we're still local with those, but the next step is to sort of look at branching out a bit further afield with those if we want to, if the need is there. That's another idea.
Well, so it's really at that real kind of exciting stage where you're like, where can this all go? Like, how big can it become, isn't it? It's very exciting. I'm just sorry, I'm totally distracted by your gorgeous dog now. You've got a spaniel.
Yeah.
I've got one too. I know.
This is the youngest one.
They never like to be ignored, do they? So anyway, back to the podcast. Sorry, distracted by spaniels is my favourite thing to be distracted by. It's fine. So I think, you know, you're doing some incredible things, and you know, you obviously got a lot of business now, both of you. You know, and I think it's obviously going in the right direction for you, and you're doing some really fantastically great things, you know, with your business. So if you've got what are your top tips for those that might literally just be starting to think about maybe turning a hobby into a business, just starting out? What would be your kind of top 5 tips that you feel you might want to give somebody if they were just starting out like you? Do you want to take that one, Millie? Yeah, I can see you've got something to say. Yeah.
Well, I'd say that try all of the different social media platforms. And then see which one works best for you, because especially using the different personas, it kind of helps us to realize who we want to target the most.
Yeah.
And say if like just wanted everybody to reach, we'd go for all of it, but it's kind of just 2 different people we want to see it. Another tip I'd say would to do like lots and lots of research, because it can be quite hard to just dive into something at the deep end, and you kind of really do need to figure out what's happening, what's going on, and what you have to do and what you think your plans for the future are going to be.
I think a great lead from that is that your online book, How to Launch a Creative Business in 12 Weeks, was absolutely amazing.
That's very kind of you to say.
Really, really helped. You know, there's a few other books we read and a few websites as well. And I think those networks as well, they can open doors, they can give you opportunities, you know, really be open-minded to those as well. We haven't planned to do workshops, and we were asked, well, I was like, oh gosh, we're not geared up for that. But I thought, well, actually, you know, this is an opportunity, we need to just go for it. You know, so it wasn't on our plan, but we did go.
Say yes and figure it out later. That's always my mantra. It's like, if you've been asked to do something, somebody believes in you and believes that you can do it. So I'm a great believer in the say yes and figure it out later. I think it comes right down to what we were talking about right at the beginning, isn't it? It's about bravery and not being afraid of failure, and as long as you're learning from mistakes, you're going to make them. We all make them. I make them weekly, but as long as you learn from them and you learn a better way, then you're always going to be one step ahead. You're always going to be doing well. And I think like you say, doing your research and like really thinking about it and not expecting things just to come to you. I think a lot of people kind of think, oh, I'll just get a website and I'll get a social media account, and then because what I'm doing is so great, everybody's just going to kind of flock to me. And you can have the absolute best products in the world, but if you don't talk to your customers, you don't find out, exactly as Millie was saying, explaining who your customers are, then they're never going to know about all the fantastic things that you've been making. So you've obviously worked really, really hard at that to understand who's going to want all of your beautiful products, and then how you're going to talk to them and how you're going to reach them. So what social media do you use? What did you decide was the best kind of route for you?
We started out on Facebook.
Yeah.
And because that was the one that you, Mum, that you knew the best. And one of the people who kind of helped give us ideas and stuff, she told us to have a go at trying Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And that has probably become the one that our new main one now.
It's very easy to use.
Yeah,
even I can manage that.
You do most of that, Millie, or is that a joint effort?
Millie does most of that.
You do most of the Instagramming, don't you? Fantastic.
Yeah.
You've branched out into TikTok now as well.
Yeah,
you really enjoy.
Do I follow you on there? I have to get on that. What's your TikTok handle?
I think you follow us.
I think
I'm so rubbish at it.
She's just looking it up. We don't know it off by heart, sorry.
Don't worry, we can put it in the show notes. We will put all of your links in the show notes so everybody can go and find you on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and anywhere else that we should know about, that you hang out, or is that the main ones at the moment?
They're the main ones, yes. That's enough.
It's always better to focus on a small number and do it really well than it is to try and cover all of them and not be consistent, isn't it? So yes. I think you're doing absolutely the right thing. So, I mean, we've talked a little bit about what sort of future plans, but do you have any other big plans up your sleeve at the moment for where you might like to go next, or is it top secret at the moment?
We have just signed up to Airbnb to do experiences, because we didn't realize that you could do experiences on Airbnb.
I did not know that either. Tell me everything. This is very exciting. So I'm learning something new today as well. This is fantastic. Tell me how this works.
Mum, you said you wanted to try and do it because one of your friends said that there was that opportunity, and we decided to take it. So as normal, Mum was a bit weary to do it, but I decided that, well, it was going to take a while to get you to come around, so I filled it all in and said, Mum, look, it's not that bad, and you said go, that we could do it, and we've just kind of just released that. So
that's amazing. So how does it work on then? So you register with the Airbnb, and then how does that work then?
And then basically it asks you to fill in a bunch of questions about your business, like what do you do, what you do with the customers, where you're based, and like all sorts of things like that. And then you upload photos, and once you've clicked the go button, they review it. Ours took about 3 days, but they said that it can take around a week, if possibly longer, but it was quite quick, which was quite exciting.
They really wanted you. They were always like, this is amazing. Yeah, signed up.
And then you can fill in the dates of what you want to do, and then it's all up there.
What we're hoping is that maybe people who are staying in the area could then maybe contact us and say, so we could maybe do something bespoke rather than
absolutely
a set of events up. So that's what we're hoping. Fingers crossed.
Thank you so much for sharing that with me. That's a really exciting development, isn't it? And that's something that I think, a lot of people could go and start to explore. So that's a fantastic avenue. Thank you so much for sharing that and not keeping it to yourself, because it's one of those things, isn't it, where you're like, oh, I found this amazing new thing. So thank you so much for for sharing that. That's very exciting. So, well, I hope that goes really well, and you'll have to keep me updated on the developments on that side of things and how that works out. Have you got anything else that you would like to share with me about anything before we wrap it up today, or do you feel a bit exhausted by all this like constant being questions?
Well, just thank you for this opportunity. This to me was like another sort of a networking opportunity that it would be silly not to do, because it just expands your custom base in a way, or can help towards that. So thank you.
You're so welcome. It's what I want to do it for. And with all of my platforms, I only want them to be there to help and get the word out there about all these amazing businesses. And if I can do that in some small way through the podcast, then that's my job done.
Thank you.
I'd also like to say that sometimes it can really help having like the right mindset to do it. So sometimes maybe if you didn't feel exactly completely well that day, then don't try and push yourself to do it when you don't feel 100% wanting to do it, because that can kind of change your mindset about doing it. And just make sure that you enjoy it all of the time. And if it's something that you don't necessarily enjoy, or like there's a task that you don't necessarily enjoy, then try and find a way to make it more enjoyable. Because one of the things that we do is we write down like all of our plans and what we want to do in a notebook, and that got a bit boring, as it does writing, especially as I do it every day at school. So we got a fancy cool notebook with a fancy cool pen.
Oh, you're a girl after my own heart. Anything, any excuse to get a new pretty notebook, I am there. That is, I think, it was fantastic advice though. All joking aside, it's really good advice to, try and do all of the things that you need to do when you're feeling most in the mood for them, and keep your passion alive for what you're doing, and, just keep going even when things feel a little bit tough. You just got to kind of keep that going. But you've got each other, which is, a real advantage, isn't it? Because like you were saying, like when one of you is a bit like unsure, the other one's like, no, come on, we can do this. So thank you so much for some like absolutely fantastic advice that you've given, and you've shared some things that I didn't know about as well. So I feel like I've really learned something today as well. I really, really appreciate you coming onto the podcast and talking to me, because I know it can be a bit daunting to do these things, but you did absolutely brilliantly, and I really, really do thank you for coming on and talking to me. So thank you so much. And I will make sure that I share all of your contact details so that people can go and see all of the amazing things that you do. They can go and buy your beautiful products, or they can go and book onto your workshops, and just everybody should absolutely go and do that. So thank you very, very much indeed. And I will look forward to seeing your business flourish, as I know it will, with you two at the helm. It's going to do absolutely fantastic things. So thank you.
Thank you very much too, Kate.
All right, take care.
Bye.